What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. In this video, we're going to be talking about episode 8, known as Birthright. This is the final episode of 2023. We only have 2 more episodes left of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I think they're going to probably do a second season, but it hasn't been outright 100% confirmed / greenlit until this season ends. So hopefully we do get a second season, because I have quite enjoyed myself watching this show. I assume the season probably won't drop because they still got to film it, I'm sure, and probably write it. I'm sure they have a whole big thing planned out for a couple season arcs, but if they're going to do something, I assume it'll probably come in like 2025 at the earliest, based on my predictions. But anyway, so this episode's known as Birthright. I thought it was a big improvement over episode 7. Now, episode 7 had some good world building stuff. We learned how Apex became connected to Monarch and how Cora, or May's name was really Cora. We also saw how Monarch became public to the world, and we see more of what Shaw's been trying to do. He's trying to destroy these rifts between the surface world and Hollow Earth, if you will, so that all these other Titans don't keep coming through and cause another G-Day instant with all the gamma ray spikes, if you will. He's trying to help Godzilla, but maybe his methodology isn't really going to work. But his heart's in the right place, if you will. So, per the usual, I'm going to go ahead and recap what happens in the episode. I'll start with the 50s and then go into the 2015 stuff. But the opening of the episode kind of ties both together, and then we get the credits. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, the opening of the episode has Keiko and Bill talking to each other. They mention about having not been home for a while, and they want to be home for Hiroshi's birthday. And then it cuts to Shaw reminiscing as he's driving into present-day Kazakhstan, where Keiko ultimately died. So he was thinking back to the moment before it all kind of went haywire, if you will, what we saw earlier on in the episode in 1959. I think it was the first or the second episode. And then the credits roll. So now Shaw is back in Kazakhstan. He wants to do the same thing he did in Alaska, destroy another portal, and we'll see where it goes from there. So starting with the 1950s stuff, it opens up with Lee, Bill, and Kate talking to this really douchey military guy named Hatch, the guy who ultimately got control of Monarch when Shaw decided not to go for that budgetary meeting because he was worried about the safety of Keiko, which ultimately kind of cost him control in the end, if you will, at that point in time. So Hatch is trying to take military funds away from Monarch and push them into other things. It's the 1950s, it's the Red Scare and all that other stuff going on. He's asking why Monarch needs money, and then he said some nasty things about Keiko, and then Bill almost snapped and tried to fight him, which is pretty good. I like Bill standing up for her in that way. Shaw's trying to be a little bit more level-headed, but even he's like, you're kind of out of line, dude, and being a bit of a douche. I mean, the first time you see this guy, I think it was episode 6, he just came across as a true D-bag, and Shaw was trying to be like this guy who's in between. He's trying to be professional in some ways, but he's also trying to be a little bit clever because he's trying to look out for his team's best interests and other things as well. So Lee did what he could to keep Bill and Keiko from being thrown out, and then he ultimately gives them an ultimatum. He also talks about bringing up the truth to Puckett about how Godzilla is still alive, but the other two shut him down because Keiko doesn't want them to build another bomb to take out Godzilla. But in Shaw's defense, they're already focusing on a new enemy anyway, so if we're going to lose funding, we better tell them that our biggest weapon did not do anything against this creature. So I understand his point of view, and I understand her point of view. I always like when you get that perspective in a TV show. So he asks them to put together some sort of map in order to present things in some sort of data. He gives them 3 days to string something together about why Monarch needs to exist, because it's on the line right now. If they don't get this funding, Monarch is over with. So he brings up some points there. Then Keiko and Bill have a nice scene together, and they're talking to each other. Keiko appreciated Bill standing up for her, and she talks about how she had some stuff going on in her past that she didn't tell him about, but Bill reveals that he didn't care. He knows what kind of person he is, and he trusts her after she didn't leave him to die on the Lawton, which during this time, Shaw's been secretly kind of listening in as well. So Bill is looking at the map. We see a little bit of time has passed within the 3 days, I assume, because he's kind of a little bit of a pig. There's ants flying around, and ants kind of crawl over the map and crawl through a hole in the map, and that's where he ultimately realizes where the Titans are going, into some underground realm, if you will, based on the data that he's accumulated. Something kind of cuckoo crackpot theory, if you will, but something he believes in, where the Titans are truly at, somewhere inside of Hollow Earth. So he then goes to Keiko's house to tell her what happened. She tells her to be quiet, and we ultimately found out that she has a son already. Her son is named Hiroshi, which we know later on, who was not the biological son of Lee Shaw or Bill Randa, which I am appreciative of the Shaw thing, because I didn't want another cheater angle like we saw in the present day. I feel like we kind of have enough of that in this show. but she reveals that the reason she kind of fled to this country in the first place was for more financial opportunities, and she couldn't bring him in just yet until just a few months ago, and she was kind of hesitant to say something. Hatch knew about it, and he was kind of lingering that over her head, if you will, and she's a little bit worried about her son, but Bill tells her he's got her back, and she doesn't have to raise her son alone, and she didn't want to tell him about it, but ultimately she's kind of glad that Bill knows about it, and you see kind of the compassionate side of Bill Randa. He ends with her holding her hand, which is laying the foundation of their eventual marriage and connection. So I like the stuff between the two of them. They didn't really kiss or anything like that. There was a sense of charming likability with these two together. Bill just kind of comes across as that type of guy. I assume he's going to change after she passes on. I think we'll probably get the fallout of that in episode 9. But it was a nice little scene with them together. I buy their relationship a little bit more and more, because a lot of it was leaning towards her and Shaw, but now we're shifting the focus between her and Bill. So we'll see where that goes from there. And then afterwards, Shaw confronts Puckett. He goes over Hatch's head and tells Puckett the truth about how Godzilla is still alive, which wasn't in the file that Hatch presented to him about Monarch. And I think it's kind of funny how he goes over Hatch's head, and I think this is ultimately how Shaw may come into power. But it came at a price. Monarch was about to be shut down, so he had to reveal the truth about how Godzilla is truly alive. But he also said that this is the research done by Keiko Mura and Bill Randa, their importance within the organization, why they need to be here and stuff. So he was ultimately looking out for them, and he just told Puckett what he needed to say to keep Monarch afloat. I'm sure that's going to backfire him with his friends, but they have to understand he had to tell them. So I like Shaw. Shaw is my favorite character in the Monsterverse in terms of the human stuff. So that concludes the 1950s flashbacks. Then we head back to 2015, and as I mentioned earlier on in the video, if you will, Shaw was off doing his thing. He's heading to Kazakhstan, where Kiko initially died, and then the trio, Kentaro and May, arrive with Tim at Monarch headquarters. We see that Tim works in the basement, which is in Bill Randa's old office. He's like, "This is your legacy." He shows in the main Monarch room. We find out that Shaw has been destroying rifts, which depleted one area, but the gamma ray spikes, that was shifted to somewhere else, where the pressure was being relieved in one fashion. Like let me put it this way. Say you poke a hole in something and air comes out, right? If you poke multiple holes, the pressure will come out kind of more evenly in different areas. But if you seal up one way, more pressure is going to kind of come out another way. And that's basically what's happened with these Hollow Earth rifts, if you will. The energy has to be expelled in some sort of fashion with these rifts. If you're going to destroy one area, it's just going to come out somewhere else, or perhaps add more pressure to these other areas, potentially leading to more Titans rising up through it. So it's kind of an unwinnable scenario. There's a bit of a gray area. Does this really going to work destroying these rifts, or is it ultimately going to cause more problems? You don't 100% know for sure, although based on some of the data they're presenting here, it seems like Shaw's plan is ultimately going to backfire him, but his heart's in the right place, if you will. So they ultimately figure out that he is in Kazakhstan, and so they send a team there to figure out what's going on. Kentaro also questions why do they have to do something, but Kate reassures him he's kind of just had enough based on all the stuff that's happening. So they end up having to Kazakhstan, where they run into Shaw. They also see another portal into the Hollow Earth. That's where Keiko ultimately had died or disappeared years later. We'll get into that in a second. Duvall's there. She points a gun at Tim's team, and then Shaw comes out to ask Kate to talk with him, but only her, though. And then probably my favorite scene in the modern time stuff, you have a conversation between Kate and Shaw, and he mentions you looked into his eyes. He's not just some mindless, destructive force. He knows what he's doing. So we see that Shaw knows there's another world down there that isn't ours, and he has in fact been there. So this is before GVK, so Shaw has somehow been inside Hollow Earth. We'll probably find out more of the results of that in the next episode. And he realized that Godzilla isn't really here necessarily to hurt us. He's just kind of keeping our world in check and kind of keeping theirs in check. He won't attack unless provoked. He's just trying to keep things in balance, if you will. He's trying to seal it off in order to prevent the next G-Day type incident. That's why he's trying to help Godzilla and make it a little bit easier for him in the process. Kate tells him the data she learned along the way. Shaw doesn't fully believe in it because Monarch likes to cherry pick their data. All they do is study data and then sit back and study it again. They're doing absolutely nothing to prevent the next G-Day. And he's very valid in his points there. They're really doing... Sure, they're researching Titans and all this other stuff, but what are they really doing to stop the next G-Day event? Nothing. He's trying to do something. He's trying to take action. All this indecisive nature ultimately led to somebody he really cared about kind of dying. So you understand his point of view. He's doing this all based on belief and, to some degree, atonement over what happened with Keiko in the past. This whole plan he could have could either save the world or destroy it. There's some uncertainty to it, which makes it all the more interesting in my eyes. So Shaw activates the detonator. May then seemingly falls to her death as a fully grown endoswarm titan comes out through the ground to attack. Shaw grabs a hold of Kate, who's starting to fall in, which is very reminiscent of what happened with Keiko Mira. Although this time Shaw ultimately falls in with Kate, leaving us on the cliffhanger ending as they all fall into some sort of rift to Hollow Earth. And we'll see what happens from there. Although, in Godzilla vs. Kong, when they travel with the heat vehicles, maybe this portal is a little bit different than the one that they travel to in Antarctica. But the pressure kind of made them like puke and do all sorts of crazy things. Or maybe there's something different about specific portals to Hollow Earth. I don't exactly know. But it is a very interesting and exciting cliffhanger. But it also makes me wonder, if Keiko was dragged down into Hollow Earth like that, is there the potential that she is still alive down there as we speak? Now, that would be a heck of a reveal. Again, I don't exactly know. There's 2 episodes left, but it wouldn't really surprise me at this point because I don't expect them to kill off May, Shaw, and Kate all within one specific episode right here. It just, I don't know. It just feels like it's just a cliffhanger for the sake of a cliffhanger, but who knows what'll happen. I know the next episode we're going to find out more about the past stuff. I don't want Shaw to die. He is my favorite character within the series, and the Monsterverse has a tendency to kill off the best characters. Look at 2014. They killed off Bryan Cranston, King of the Monsters. They killed off Serizawa. Although Serizawa's death, I think, was extremely well handled, and that's my favorite scene in the Monsterverse as of right now. It's a very powerful moment between Godzilla and the human, a very tender moment, which you don't really get to see all that often. So at least when Serizawa went out, he went heroically. Bryan Cranston just unfortunately passed away within the first 30 minutes of that movie. But like I said, episode 8 I think was a big improvement over episode 7. We find out more about Shaw's plans. We understand why he's doing what he's doing, and his motivation and his heart's in the right place. You get why Duval is on his side, because he's trying to prevent the next G-Day. Look what happened to her sister because of all the stuff that Monarch knew, because her sister was Sandra Brody. So I like that aspect. I like what Shaw's doing here. And now, with the last 2 episodes, I expect the show to kick even more into high gear now that the team's kind of back together. And also, where the hell is Hiroshi in all this? We saw him briefly in episode 6, and then he kind of vanished and disappeared. I want to see more of this guy. Where is he off to? Is he going to show up in these different places right now? How is he getting around without anybody tracking him or finding him or whatnot? I don't know, because it feels like we sometimes skip around too much. Like at the end of episode 6, Godzilla walked off into the desert, and then we didn't really see him again. Where is he at? Is he going to appear through another Hollow Earth portal? Are they going to run into Hiroshi there? Who knows? It's all up in the air, ambiguous stuff, but I am excited. Now, finding out that Keiko was in fact a widow, I think makes it kind of interesting in some ways. I'm glad that it's not going to be one of those things where her biological son is Lee Shaw's son. I think that would have kind of hurt things a little bit. I'm tired of the cheating angle stuff. I don't really want that with the 50s crew. We already have that with Kate and her dad. We don't really need that with Keiko, Bill, and Lee Shaw as well. So it is what it is, I suppose. But anyways, what did you think of Monarch Legacy of Monsters episode 8? Did you like it? Is this one of your favorite episodes of the season? I liked it. Is it my favorite episode? I still say episode 6 is my favorite so far. But now that we're getting into episodes 9 and 10, I feel like the excitement is ramping up. We'll probably get a little bit of Hollow Earth exploration in the next episode. That's what I'm assuming is going to happen. And perhaps, potentially, the return of Keiko Randa, if you will, based on what happened. Because Shaw seemingly didn't really age much. We'll probably get an explanation that the gamma rays are somewhere prolonging his aging in some capacity. That's my theory. That's why I think the Titans are living as long as they are. I don't know. There's so much mystery and excitement around it, and I just can't wait to see what the next 2 episodes bring us. We're almost to the end. I know some people have seen it because they somehow get press screeners or whatever. Why don't I get that? You know what I mean? I've covered Godzilla stuff for so long on my channel, yet I never get these advanced screeners for these types of episodes, and it's really frustrating. I want to see them early. It's not fair. But at the same time, there's that fun excitement along watching this stuff with everybody else. So who knows what will happen next. But anyways, what did you think of the episode? Post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to your channel for more content, hit that bell for notifications, all that fun stuff. That's all I got to say for right now. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Until next year, Monarch, peace out.